We're here today welcoming Renoldo Epps. Renoldo Epps is a homeowner in Wilmington, Delaware. A homeowner of how many years, Renoldo?
Oh God, this is my third place.
No, I mean, of how many years have you
Oh,
been in your current home?
this house about a year and a half, 2 years.
About a year and a half or 2 years. And I've talked with Renoldo. Renoldo is a friend of mine, so we've talked all along since he first started living in his new home and when he started his renovations. And Renoldo is one of the people that helped encourage me to write the book that I wrote, A Homeowner's Guide to Renovations and Maintenance. And the reason why I wrote the book was because I found that a lot of my friends and family members would call me up and ask me questions regarding their contractors, regarding their renovations that they wanted to do. And one of the people, of course, was Renoldo. So, Renoldo, just tell me a little bit about the different projects that you did since you moved into your new home.
Well, one of the projects was that I needed a space in the bathroom. I didn't have a closet in my bathroom, so I had no place for the linens or the towels. So what I did was there was a crawl space to get to the attic down. So it was a ladder in a closet, pretty much. So
That's popular with older homes.
a ladder in the closet. It was so
Yeah.
small, I didn't know what to do with it. So I had the ladder taken out and shelving put in. But the type of shelving that I had put in can slide out easily. And then the rungs of the shelves can actually be used as a ladder to climb into the attic when need be for emergencies.
Now, actually, that's a good idea. Did you come up with that idea or did your contractor suggest that to you?
So what we did first was because I had suggested making the shelves to fit in between the ladder rungs to hold down, and then that way I could just flop it up and take it out. And the contractor decided to, instead of working with old wood, he wanted to work with all fresh wood. So he pulled it all out and said, let me redesign what I have an idea for. And he redesigned it, and we took that over my approach.
And actually, that's a smart idea because the wood could have been as old as your house. How old do you think your house is?
My house is 91 years old.
Oh wow. Yeah, that was a good idea for him to decide to put in new wood just to make sure it's secure enough if somebody wanted to eventually use those rungs to climb up into the attic. So tell us about your other renovations you had done in your home.
Another renovation that I had done was the screen door and the front door had to come off. So I went out and I purchased a refrigerator. And when the refrigerator got here, the door couldn't open. It wasn't wide enough with the screen door on. So they sent the refrigerator back. I went back to look for what was called now a counter size refrigerator, which is a little thinner.
Counter depth. I know what you're talking about.
Counter depth refrigerator, which is a little thinner. But counter depth refrigerators are way more expensive than a traditional standard refrigerator.
Yes.
The refrigerator that I found was like $800. I liked it so much, I decided to just have the door replaced, have the screen door replaced. It was cheaper to put on a new screen door, rip out the old screen door, and put on a new screen door than to send the refrigerator back and order a whole nother refrigerator. So that way, that gave me two projects in one, which I was very, very lucky to think of it like right on my toes. I was like, well, it's cheaper to get a new door. So we did that, and that was great. And that spruced up, and I was able to get a Pelly door. I was able to do name.
Pelly, very good doors. Yes, definitely.
Able to do name brand, and the door is a multi-function door. So the screen is in the door. There's no taking out the glass. It just rolls up and down. So the glass the screen comes down.
Like a window, almost like a double hung window. Yes.
Yeah, so that was actually great. So that saved me from looking for the glass in the screen every time the seasons change.
I remember those years. Those years. And now Renoldo brought up a good point, and that's a tip. Just to let our audience know, when I used to design kitchens, clients would run into this a lot, where their refrigerators would not fit through their doorways. A lot of times, homeowners have doorways that are not 3 feet. They're typically 30 inches or 32 inches. And if your refrigerator or your stove or whatever can't get in, they'll have to take your door off or take the doors to the refrigerator off. And sometimes that doesn't work. I've had clients that had to widen their doorways and then get new doors because they couldn't get the appliances in. And it's always good to measure your doorways when you're planning your renovation. And that's what the book is all about. Some parts of the book, we're telling you about planning in advance. So that's one thing. And I'm glad you brought that up, Renoldo, about that doorway issue, because that's a big deal, especially when you're doing a kitchen renovation. So let's continue to go through all your renovations in your home.
The same thing happened with the washer and dryer. I wasn't able to get it through the basement door. I had to send it back and order another type of unit. I think a lot of times when persons purchase a home, they're not necessarily looking at measuring doors.
No.
When they're looking at the house and the aesthetics of the home. And a lot of the modern day appliances are now smaller, but they cost more. And if you're looking to save a little bit money and you're trying to go with bigger appliances, that's maybe something that you may look when you're purchasing your home, taking a look at. So I had to send the washer and dryer back. I don't know how she got it in here because it was a 220 line, but I don't know what she found that could get through the door. So I had to go back and get an apartment size washer and dryer. Now, luckily, luckily it's just me, but they are.
That's a good thing.
It's not like I need to wash a whole lot of clothes. And it was more high efficiency. So it was a great buy for a single person. The biggest project renovation that I had, though, at least it was aware of, that drove me crazy, was my backyard. The yard renovations were done in 2 stages throughout the project. So I hired a contractor who came from Home Advisor, and Home Advisor was very high rated. And he was going to do, or he did do, a fence. Now, the fence was custom designed because I wanted something a little bit different. It's taking, instead of the boards going up and down, they're actually going long. So it means that it needed a little bit more support, a little bit more drilling. The hard story with the contractor with that one was that when he surveyed the land, he didn't dig deep enough into the dirt to see how far down the post was actually going to be. The prior owner of my home, I don't know what she was going through, but she put dirt over top of concrete.
Ooh.
So what happened was, as we went to dig the post, we were digging in dirt and we slammed into a concrete slab. Now, the concrete slab was lower than what the normal concrete is in the neighborhood. So a picture, you come out on your back plane and you're walking and then you see dirt. So you would think that it just changed in the dirt. The other concrete slab was about 5 or 6 inches below.
Okay.
With dirt. And I didn't think about it, but when you look down the row of the other homes on the block, everybody else had concrete. So I was like, well, what is this dirt here for? And the first year I noticed that I had the home, nothing grew. So that told me that it was some type of artificial soil, or it was soil, but it was not rooted dirt.
Yeah.
So when the contractor came, I explained that to the contractor and I said, look, you're going to need to do a sample and you need to go all the way down. You might not even go down about 10 feet to figure out what's in this dirt. So before you start putting stuff in. And we were hitting slabs and things like that. And he thought one was a drain, and we lifted up the slab. It was just a slab of concrete on dirt. So it was a nightmare, but he was able to finish the project. He came in just a little bit over bid, but he was able to finish the project to the best of his ability. And I'm going to use that in caveats. The best of his ability, he was able to finish the project. I was happy with the project, that it was actually completed. There was some things he needed to tie up, but because it was becoming the winter months, it was a little cold. And since I wasn't going to use the space, I decided to go ahead and put the tidy up parts into the spring. That brings us to story 2. So
let's just hold up on one, because I wanted to give one little tip from your first part of from the story 1, and that is digging. Well, 2 things. My guess is that your previous homeowner probably put dirt on top of what was really the concrete slab that was supposed to be there. And that's probably because she wanted to plant some grass, and she was just thinking, let me bring some dirt in here, throw it on top of the concrete, and put the patches of grass. Would you think that may have been it?
She tried to do a garden. I found some like the little sections that you keep, the little fences. I found some garden fences in there. Also, the horror story was I found some beautiful stones in the grass, in the dirt. And I
Wow.
brushed the stones off, and I was going to keep the stones to add them to the new collection because I thought the stones were a part of the aesthetic, hence the name of your company. I thought the part of the aesthetic, I wanted to keep the stones. So as we kept the stones, and I'll explain that in part two, I actually found out that the stones were tombstones.
Oh wow. Now see, then that's where I was going. A lot of times in older homes, your home is 91 years old. There's stories, and it's you can just see as you pull layers back, you'll start seeing, and you'll run into you'll plan it to be maybe 6 weeks, and you'll find these little things that'll slow your project down because, of course, you find these little layers and layers of stories, tombstones, concrete. One thing I do want to give our audience a tip for, and this is required for just about every state in the country. Renoldo is in Delaware. I'm in Pennsylvania. I know that this area is required, but I'm pretty sure it's for every state. It's a requirement to report before you dig, and it's free. Just to let know, whenever you dig more than 12 inches, you have to let your local authority know. In Philadelphia, it's Philly 311, Philly 811. I'm sorry. It's a Pennsylvania law where because what can happen, especially in a lot of urban areas, is that you could hit cable lines, you can hit gas lines, you can hit electrical lines, you can get electrocuted, you can explode, make something explode. So this is just a quick tip. Make sure your contractor does it. Sometimes they don't do it, but I just want to make sure I get these tips in between with us talking about what Renoldo did with his renovation. So go ahead, Renoldo. You can continue with part two. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to make sure I got that in.
So let me also caveat that the tombstones were not human; they were animals.
So that's cool. So were they professionally made, or were they some homemade tombstones?
No, they were professionally made tombstones.
Nice. That means there were some animals buried somewhere.
Somewhere in that mess. So I don't know, now, so when we took out the dirt, let me explain, we took out probably about a half of pickup truck worth of dirt. It was a lot of soil.
That is a lot.
We repurposed some of the soil to my front yard. And then we repurposed some of the soil to a flower bed. So we were recycling as we were going, but that's on the second part of the contract. So let me tell you about the part bridge from part one to part two. So a year passed, and part two was that I hired the same contractor yet again to come back to do the paving stones for the location. My way of thinking was that the contractor did okay with the first one, and he was aware of the yard, the depth, everything. He had all the knowledge to begin the project without me having to explain it all over again, or without him having to do drawings again, because I had all the drawings that he did originally. So he came in.
He was familiar with what was going on, so he would be
very familiar. He knew where he dug. He knew where the post was. He knew all the lay of the land. He knew what was there. It was just one of those deals. So the contractor gave me a price, which I didn't think was way outside of the ballpark, figuring that he had to yet start over again. So I was okay with that. And one of the things that the contractor, as I spoke with Lisa, which I didn't realize was uncommon, was that he asked for half of the money up front. Now, I had a conversation with Lisa about pricing, and I refused to pay him half. I paid him a quarter. And I told him
smart. That was very smart.
Another thing that he wanted, which I didn't want to do, and I didn't do, he wanted me to cash app him while I was standing there. I'm a business owner myself, and I can't stand cash app when it comes to personal things like that.
Me either.
Because it's money just gone. It's money. There's no reputing it. There's no going back. There's no way of trying to catch it back if something was to go wrong. So I told him I would pay him through PayPal, which I was able to use my credit card so I could have some kind of buyer protection. So that's a huge thing. Make sure you have some kind of buyer protection if you're unsure of the contractor, or even if you are sure of the contractor, make sure you have some way to go back in case something happens.
Exactly. I agree. I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm. The date was given to me for the start of the project, and the project was supposed to start in March to go until maybe June, so I will be able to use the yard for June, July, August, the summer months. and the project was held up by 3 weeks. I would ask the contractor what was going on. He would tell me that he had another project and that he would get to mine right after that. It ran late. He would, my project was slated to take 1 week to complete, which I really thought, well, I didn't know. I'm like, okay, paving stones, they're going to put stones, they're going to lay down some concrete, put some stones down, and we're going to move on. That's the way I thought in my head, that once the dirt was out, that you just had to put the stones down. I didn't know everything that was entailed. I think what I would recommend people doing, that if you have a home project, that you actually look at some videos before you do the project, so that way you have a very realistic time to compare. So if I would have watched some YouTube videos on paving, I would have known more of what they were actually doing in the premise. Well, needless to say, the contractor stole the money and ran away, and I was not able to get him. So how the story went on the stealing of the money was that I kept bothering him to start the project. So he finally came over with a crew, and they were digging in the backyard. They were moving the earth from one side to the next, the dirt. The crew called the contractor to say, hey, we need the stones or we need the sand so we can start leveling out. He told them that he would be there in about an hour. So they were still digging. The hour came and went. The crew left. They didn't tell me anything. They just walked off the job and they left. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh, they went to lunch, or they probably went to the store. Crews do that kind of stuff. That's not uncommon, and he had preferenced the crew not to speak to me. So before he left, he said, hey, don't worry about it. You don't have to talk to these guys. They won't talk to you. They know what to do. They'll have it. And I was like, well, that's strange to preference a crew. What if they need to ask me to go to the bathroom or they want something to drink? Why would you tell them not to talk to me?
That is strange.
So I found that to be strange. Then when the crew left, and they had been gone for about 4 hours, I called the contractor. I said, well, your crew is gone. So he came rushing over here an hour later. Oh my God, why did they do that? They know better. They left their tools and everything. They know better. I can't believe they left. So contractor had took the money and he came back and he told me what was going on with, the contractor. So he told me they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have did this. And okay, fine. The crew left. I don't know what transpired between them two. The next morning I was awakened to the crew, and the guy was very, I don't know, he wasn't standoffish, but he was like, I don't want no problems. Can I have my equipment? And I was like,
and this is the crew or the owner?
The crew.
Okay.
Can I have my equipment? And I was like, okay, you can have whatever you want. I'm not going to stop you from taking your stuff. I don't know. You get what I'm saying? I'm like, sure. He was just like, I don't want no problems. He just kept saying that over and over again. So he was like, I don't know what your arrangements is with him, but I think he's trying to cheat you. So I said, oh, okay. So he was like, well, my crew, we can do the job. And he gave me this ridiculously low price. Like it was thousands lower. And so the original price that they told me was going to be $25. He gave me a price of $900.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was like, no. I said, let me explain something to you. I'm not going to deal with the crew that's backstabbing the owner of the company, and I don't know what you guys' arrangements are. I don't know what you're trying to figure out. I don't know. He ain't come back with.
You can't tell what the position is. You don't know. You don't know where everybody is on this.
So at that point, I fired the whole program. I sent a letter to the contractor terminating my agreement with that contractor. And I went back to the credit card company and asked for my money back.
Oh, I have a quick question for you. Did you report the contractor to Home Advisor?
I actually reported. I sent them a copy of everything that I was doing.
Did they respond to you?
They were very lucid with the response.
I've been there. I've heard that happen. Not with them in particular, but with other similar companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard that happen.
So I hired the contractor that did the first project. He came over to look at something else, and I explained to him what was going on. And he was like, well, you should have hired me in the first place. And I really felt bad because I really should have hired him in the first place. And I explained to him I didn't know he did that type of work. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, he does it. So he went out and he gave me a price and an estimate of what was going on. He fixed up any mistakes that the first contractor did in the fencing just to bring everything tidy together. And then he began the project on time. He also brought in a crew, and the crew worked with and without him. And I was very satisfied with the level of the crew that was here and what they were doing and how they were actually doing the project. So the project did take a little longer than expected. We had some bad weather storms here in this region during the month of June and July. We had a couple of hurricanes and stuff like that. I'm not going to ask them to go out and work in the hurricane season to put me down a deck. It's just not going to happen. But it worked well. It really worked well. So the first thing is probably go with your first gut and check with if you have a good contractor already that you feel that you have a great relationship with, check with that contractor first, because that contractor may have a referral for you of someone that they already know if they can't do it, or they may be able to do it themselves. So if you already have a great relationship. I
would also say, look at what he's done, because cell phones, you can always snap a picture of what you've done. And if, I'm sure they can find it in their telephone just to make sure, because even if you know him and you've used him before and he knows somebody, that's the most important thing. Let me see. Oh, have you done this before? Oh, let me see. You got any samples of it? Just to make sure. That's really kind of like the biggest thing.
Right. That's true. And the new contractor had brought extra materials. He had brought extra stuff just in case we ran out. He was very fluid. He was on his schedule. He worked on my schedule, which was very tight at the time. We were able to get it done. I was actually able to hire his crew in addition to do some extra work, like trimming some trees that was over the property. So it was really a great win-win situation. I enjoy the space so much now once I get the mosquitoes out of it.
And if you don't mind sharing a couple of pictures of your space, we'll pop in some pictures so we can see, because it looks good. It really looks good. Renoldo shared the pictures in our renovation realities group, and it looks top notch. I mean, I bet you wish you would have gone with that contractor for the whole job. He probably would have had everything done.
That contractor actually got 6 referrals from me, from my neighbors, based on
that. See, and that's where it comes from. That's what I always tell people. Number one, so in my book, I actually have a contractor checklist that and I'm in the checklist. You mightn't be able to see it. Sometimes Zoom doesn't let you see it, but there's a contractor checklist. And in the checklist, get referrals, get as much information about that contractor as you can. And I always tell people, please, please, please do not really put too much trust in those advisor sites. I won't diss Home Advisor in particular, but there's also, I've been on projects with other advisor sites very similar to Home Advisor. There was a contractor about 10 years ago that stole a large sum of money, thousands of dollars, from a church, and he was from one of those sites. There was a contractor even more recently that was from one of those sites last year. My client was looking to hire him, and I was managing the project, and I said, okay, give me his information. Let me check into it for you. Because in Philadelphia, I can check their information. And I'm sure other cities have the same type of setup where you can make a quick phone call. Philly, we have something called Philly 311. You can make a quick phone call and check the contractor. Well, this contractor that was from the referral site had an expired license. And when we went after him to get his license renewed, because my client liked him so much, he kept giving us different excuses about why he hadn't renewed his license. And he kept saying, oh, I'm going to renew it. And if anybody knows, in Philadelphia, you can renew a contractor's license at the drop of a hat. You just need $200 and some insurance. And you have to be tax compliant. Well, this gentleman couldn't get his license renewed. And, those are some things you find out from some of those advisor, some of those home referral companies. And, so don't feel bad that you called one and that happened with you. It's happened to so many different people. It's a common issue.
And see, while he was here, when the first contractor was here, Home Advisor was calling his phone nonstop. What I mean, every 2 minutes, Somebody had a project. Somebody had a project. So in my mind, I'm thinking that he's very high, I guess people really wanted him. So even with the home advisor going on and on and on and on, I mean, literally every 2 minutes he was getting.
Well, that's how those sites work. I'm actually on one of those sites, and what they do is some of them make money off of sending out as many referrals as they can. I used to get referrals hitting my telephone. I had to actually block the number because it was all night long, all day long, constantly. You're getting text messages from them. So it's not anything. It doesn't make you any better or any worse. What they're doing is blasting people.
Right. So, but if you're the homeowner and you're hearing this, while you're sitting there, you don't know. So you're thinking that he's getting more business, so that he's wanted more. You don't know in your head that this is just actually blast media. You're saying, oh, well, somebody else is calling him. Dang,
and I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that I know I'm not as familiar with Home Advisor as I am with other referral companies, so I don't want to really diss Home Advisor, but I know how they operate. Those kind of companies operate. And again, I am actually a referral on one of those sites, and they just blast me. They just constantly blast me with referrals. And, and like you said, a homeowner's not going to know that. You're a homeowner, you're thinking, oh my God, he's good. His phone is ringing off the hook. Even if his phone is ringing off the hook, though, that could be bad sometimes too. So.
But you don't know as a person. And that was my first stab in the dark. Now, also, I had used both of these contractors before. So I used the one that did the closet for me. He was the original contractor that I used that I really liked. And he doesn't live that far from me. He's good with his schedule. So he was the one that I was using originally. Then I hired the next contractor to do the outside, not knowing that a contractor can do both if they have the skills to do both. So I would say my biggest thing is that once you do pick someone that you do like and you feel comfortable with, try not to go outside of that relationship if possible. Try to see if they can do it. Now, don't have them do something they don't know what to do, but work with them. And I think that was the third or fourth project I had for that contractor. That first contractor that I dealt with, the one that did the shelving in the bathroom, actually hung cabinets in my office. And he was the first, and I was like, he took a long time to hang some cabinets, but then when I seen the type of work and the level of quality that he did, I understood why it took so long. He just didn't slide on the wall.
He was trying to make sure they weren't going to fall off the wall.
Right, fall off the wall. He made sure that they were leveled. He made sure everything was secure. He actually told me what kind of cabinets to go buy, so I knew what to do. I could send him pictures of what I had. He was like, that'll work, that won't work. He asked me how far from the wall that I wanted, from a corner. So he really engaged me. And I find that when contractors engage you a little bit more, they're looking to make the job better for you. So that way you know exactly what they're doing, and that way you won't come out and say. And so that's why I brought that other part up. When he told his workers not to talk to me, I found that to be very, very strange.
Yeah, that is strange. And contractors, just like most business owners, go through, ebbs and flows. And I've seen contractors who started out really good and they turned out to crash and burn, I always say. And it's not, it's not always something that's going to happen, but it does happen. And you just have to always, even if you feel comfortable and they've worked with you before, always protect yourself. Always look to find ways where you're one step ahead of even, no matter who you're working with in business, you just have to make sure that. And with homeowners, it's this is your most important, this is something you're emotionally attached to. Mm-hmm. So it's understandable that you want to trust somebody, but I respect the fact that you're like, no, I'm not paying you through Cash App. I would not want that to happen, because you can't track that money. You can't, like you said, you have no consumer protection over that. So the Cash App idea is a bad idea. Yeah. And to me, set your business up if you're a contractor so you can accept at least PayPal payments. They accept rapid payments now. So you can have a PayPal app and take a payment on site. I mean, it's just more safe for the homeowner and for the contractor. So that's a good point that you brought out. And I know a lot of people love Cash App. They think it's very easy and, let's just get it done now, boom. But it's not always the safest way to go about your project.
Yeah, and as a business consultant, I would tell people that Cash App, a lot of people like Cash App because it doesn't have any tax partials to it, so you really can't track it. So a lot of people think that they're getting away with stuff by using Cash App, but I find that when you're doing, this is the thing, do what you want to have done to you. And if you're running a business or you're running your home and you want your home to be the safest place that you can go, because it is a place where you want to be quiet and do everything that you want to do, prayer, meditation, whatever you do, you want to make sure that you're on the up and up with your home. And you just don't want to go for the cosmetic look. You actually want to go for the structural look and the things that can help your house resell. And you want to make sure that it looks good, but you want to make sure that it has some strong foundations. And
I agree.
Things with contractors, a contractor is part of your foundation of your home. That's like picking a doctor, it's like picking a dentist, picking an attorney. They're in the same line of work, so you have to make sure that you pick professional on that level. And it does mean that you may have to vent. It does mean that you may have to get a second opinion.
Yep. You may have to interview more than one.
Yes, you may have to have different ones to do different things. You don't go to the
And that's a good point. I'm glad you said that. It's like a doctor and a lawyer. They have lawyers that handle divorce. You don't want your divorce lawyer handling your real estate. You don't want your foot doctor handling, your brain surgery. And same with contractors. They don't all do everything. And I would be scared of one that said they did.
So, and I've worked for some GCs before, doing their books and doing things like that. So I've seen the back end of what that looks like when they're a mess. And I kind of find that if you get a GC or you get someone, now this is just my caveat, if you get a GC and you get someone and they come to your house and their truck is a mess, 9 times out of 10, they're a mess. I'm
going to disagree with you there only because I don't know if you know, all of my career in as an entrepreneur, 12 years, I've worked with contractors. And I know there's a contractor I know personally. I always shout out, he's the bomb.com, as they say, or that might be old. Dirtiest truck in the world. I mean, stuff piled up, and sometimes he'll show up in his Mercedes with his gold bling all over the place. And I tease him about that. But his truck is a mess, but he's all together. So he's also an architect. So, I mean, and I know all the contractors I know that are decent might have a truck that's a mess. Even the one that has like 3 or 4 degrees, his truck is a mess. But you know what? He's got his stuff together. He's got his business all organized. Everything's online. I mean, so I can't go with you there only because I know the nature of what they're doing. And sometimes I told a contractor, the one I just mentioned that I said comes up in his Mercedes, he showed up at a job site in a suit with all his bling and his Mercedes. And I said, why'd you come here looking like that? I said, why didn't you come here dirty with your boots on because the thought process is that contractors are dirty. You're not dirty. Oh, I shouldn't say that. That's not. But
you're unkempt.
No, you're unkempt, but you might be dirty, or you might have your work clothes on. So I don't mean dirty. I talk to contractors every day, so I don't mean dirty. You guys aren't dirty, but you have your work clothes on, but I know contractors show up in suits. They'll show up in like I said, the bling and the Mercedes and all of this, but then you might see them another day and they've got their messy truck with papers piled all up in the windshield. So I can't go there with the truck. But I do agree. You want to have a contractor, and I think the telltale sign is the ones that'll write little notes on business cards and that won't communicate via email.
Yeah, that's what I kind of mean by messy. The kind that will show up at your house with tiny little pieces of paper and nothing is poured out. There's no plan.
Yeah, you don't have a website.
I asked you for the receipts of the project and you can't provide them to me because you didn't throw them in the trash.
Or you want to write me a little note of how much you paid for the paint on a little. I've seen contractors show up at Home Depot with sketches and stuff on 2x4s or on a piece of drywall. you know, the good contractors, they'll show up with that metal clipboard and they'll have their forms all nice and is written out. I mean, it's not that hard to buy that stuff. They sell it in Staples. So I do agree. You should have your stuff kind of organized where you can at least go back to where your paperwork is. And we're not communicating with little slips of paper and little
paper. Yeah, we're beyond that right now in our
exactly.
And
I've heard horror stories of contractors going to the bathroom on people's properties and stuff like that. No, we don't do that. And to me, if you know anybody in the audience is watching this, if you have that kind of contractor that's that messy, so when I say they are messy, they're not that. They shouldn't be that messy. If you have that going on, fire them immediately. You know, you know we don't want that because if they're going to the bathroom on your property, who knows what they're doing?
Right. So yeah, Lisa, that was really it. I was very happy with the level of work. I was very happy with the what was going on back there. Then I got my little decorating hands involved, and I was starting to put things together. And you know, now it's time to close up the space for the winter
after our fall party.
Look, I had to turn the heat on last night. I know everybody was like, no heat, but I was cold. I was like, am I gonna be cold by myself? And I was like, nah, I gotta click it over. So,
but the backyard, though, you can have a little fire pit out there and you know, really have a nice thing going in the fall.
Yeah, I am going to reevaluate that this week. I did want a fire pit. I'm going to reevaluate that. I'm going to take down the tenting that goes over the yard to let the smoke come up for the fireplace. It'll be a minute before I bring in the furniture, but it's still that, you know, the space is changing, the seasons are changing. So you have to kind of make sure that what you get done is done for all seasons. You can't really, I would tell somebody, especially if you're getting that level of groundwork done, you want to make sure that it's ready for all seasons and stuff like that. And with the hurricanes and things that we had,
yeah,
I was able to see firsthand, like the water drainage and the locations. I was able to see which way the water ran. I was able to see all of that done all at the same time.
Now, speaking of water and your, I just want one last thing. Tell everybody about the issue you had with your faucet in the outside, your hose bib with the water.
Okay, so
that's an important maintenance issue.
That was huge. That was huge for me. What was going on was that the first contractor, the bad contractor actually found that. I don't know why I didn't see it when I inspected the home, and I don't know why the home inspector didn't see it. So the water bib spout was leaking, and it was leaking onto the earth, and it was leaking onto the cement, and it was cracking the cement because it would leak all year long, and then the water would get down there and it would crack and expand. We don't, have to go through science, but we know what's going on there. So the bad contractor found it and he replaced it. To the tune of, I'll give you a rough estimate. My water bill monthly was like $70, which I didn't think was a whole lot. It dropped down to under $25.
Wow. Just from water escaping. And that's huge. I mean, we have to think about the fact that, when you're going around checking your house for your maintenance, that's a big thing to check. Your toilet running, your hose bib running. And some people probably think, oh, that runs all the time. And they're not even thinking about it.
And what kind of drew me to his evaluation was that when the home was inspected, the bank actually said, we don't understand why it's wet on a part of your basement. It wasn't soaked. It was just damp. And they couldn't understand because there was no rain outside. So what they did was they resealed all around the house in the back to make sure no water would seep in. And that was good enough for the bank. But eventually I found that. So shutting off the valves of things that you're not using during the season, like I shut off all of that now to make sure that they shut off. But thank God I had the valve running that day and he could see where the leak was, so he replaced it. So it was able to save me money over the long period of time. So that's the one good thing that the bad contractor actually got.
But that's also a good thing because it can help other people know, check your valves,
Mm-hmm.
and you're saving $50 a month.
Yeah, that was
plus the repair cost from what it was called, the damage it was causing.
It was costing, right. So that was a huge savings for me. Just noticing that. So was I able to get my money back? Yes. It took me about
That's
3 months
good.
to get the money back. So let me wrap that part of it up. It took me about 3 months to get the money back. PayPal and I argued it out. And the interesting thing was that PayPal wanted no pictures. So even though I was sending them pictures of undone work, they were like, we don't care about the pictures. We actually care about what the contractor actually says. But they reached out to the contractor, and the contractor never returned any of the calls. The contractor also had other individuals that they had used PayPal with, and they returned none of their calls. So PayPal, being the company that they are, they did reimburse me the $500 that it took that I left as the down payment towards the project. Never to hear or see from that contractor again. We actually believed that we were on the porch with the new contractor, and I actually believe I seen the old contractor see me and drive down the street and kept on driving. So,
wow. Wow.
Back to see what was going on and then realized I had a new one. I blocked his number, but I did write that letter and have my law firm actually send him a letter saying that we were no longer doing business together. So ending the relationship with the contractor is just as good as beginning a relationship with a contractor. You don't want to kind of leave them hanging on thinking stuff is going to happen when things are going to happen. If you're really done with them, close it out fully. And I guess that's it for me.
Well, I mean, I think you gave out some great ideas and some information that homeowners can use. And this is information that can be used no matter what type of project you have around your house. Because number one, follow up on the contractor referral source. Number two, make sure you're paying them in a way that you can keep a record and that you can get your money back if necessary. Number three, have all the necessary contracts signed. And be serious about it, even if it is somebody that was referred to you or a friend or whatever. I give my best friend contracts. He'll tell you. I'll make him sign a contract, and I make him, I invoice him and everything. So to me, there's certain things that just to keep the professionalism level there, and also the home maintenance part of it, where you have to, make sure you check certain things in your house. You were very diligent about that. And even some things you didn't know about, you found out. So now you're able to help other people with I think that hose bib thing is a big deal, because suppose you hadn't found that and it continued to drip, and then the wintertime came and it was one of those really bad. We've had some really good winters, but suppose we had a really bad winter and then the pipes busted and you had water going through your walls or outside. I mean, that's happened to people. So I think these are some good tips that will help people. And I'm glad you were able to come on the show. And also, like I said, you're calling me up every once in a while about your contractor drama. I think he made me so frustrated. I told him at one point, stop calling me about your contract. But Renoldo knows I didn't mean that. But Renoldo calling me about the contractor drama made me look to find ways to. I'm always getting calls from different homeowners, but I think going through that directly with somebody and all the different things that you went through made me decide this book is necessary. Let me pull the information that I've had from years of working with homeowners and provide some necessary information. And your experience is also necessary information to help people. So I want to thank you again for being on our show, and for also, just being one of those diligent homeowners that's looking to make sure you follow up and do everything, make sure everything is done. And you're also, you're not whining and crying about, oh, he ripped me off. You went after him. Well, we know also. We also have an aspiring lawyer here, so so that was going to happen no matter what. But thank you again for being on the show. And is there anything lastly you'd like to say to our homeowners out in the audience?
Be prepared to pay. A lot of stuff you can't get for free, and if you try to get stuff for free, you're going to get what free brings. So be prepared.
True.
Have a budget in place, and you may have to hire a project manager like Felicia herself, so that she can oversee the project. Because if it's something that you're very just not unaware of, you're not going to pick that education up overnight. And they know that. So you may have to have a project manager, because your home is your biggest project. So I agree.
Your home is your biggest. I mean, that's the most important thing. I agree totally. Well, thank you again, and we will look forward to our next episode. And we thank you for all the information you were able to provide, and have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.